If I don't spill the coffee first.
Or knock over the entire damn table.
Apparently. My bad.
I thought I was supposed to be the
clumsy one.
So does then...
Today you're the pretty one.
I was about to say, does this officially make me the pretty one?
Yes. Yes, it does. Hey, guys. This is Brad and Mike from Dallas Geek. And...
We weren't live that whole time, were we?
Live it.
Hell.
Anyway,
sorry, guys. Mom and Dad were fighting.
Fighting.
It's okay. We'll make it up later.
So, yes, for those of you who are here already, thank you for joining us. For those of you who come in later after the fact, thank you for checking this out whenever you do. But, what are we talking about today, Mike?
What are we talking about today? I overslept and did not get the notes for this. No, I'm just kidding. Of course I got the notes.
Well,
and then I threw them away and just said we're going to wing it.
That seems right.
That's what we do. We are doing our Marvel Phase 1 review. We did one a while back. I'm going to talk you. Gross. So we did one of these a while back. We went movie by movie. I think if I remember right, we had called it our one-shot series.
Yeah. Yeah, it was literally the thing that we started the channel with before the channel was official.
Right, and that may be something we might go back to, because we really liked the idea of doing a one-shot, like a quick 2.5-minute review of each movie.
Yeah.
But for right now, one of the things that we always kept kind of coming back to was how important Phase 1 is to not only the MCU, but the horribly failed DCEU.
Yeah.
But also just kind of the whole cinematic universe that it seems like everybody's trying to do.
Yeah, it's not even just the comic book movies specifically.
Right.
It's any movie that has decided that it wants to make a connected universe between its movies, for better or worse.
But I mean, like,
Marvel's responsible for starting that trend.
But like, because I mean, if you think about it, there was talk of doing a Hasbro connected universe with G.I. Joe and Transformers.
Thankfully, they decided against that.
Well, the rumor is that Bumblebee was supposed to be the launch point for that, and Bumblebee was really good.
And that's the thing. I don't really think Hasbro is gonna have I don't think they're going to have the stomach to go through with it. Because the problem is you saw with every new Transformers movie that Michael Bay was responsible for, that Hasbro's tolerance for public criticism dropped more and more and more. And I don't know if with the massive criticism that's going on right now about cinematic universes, if they are willing to put up with that, knowing that they're automatically walking into what's going to be horrible.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, but I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And then they tried to do the horror movie Legends universe that the Mummy was the Tom Cruise Mummy was supposed to be the kickoff for that.
The thing that I think even Tom Cruise pretends like he wasn't a part of.
Which I actually liked it.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I liked the more shift into the horror genre feel. And I love the Brendan Fraser one.
Oh, yeah, well...
The first two, not the third one.
Yeah, although, to be fair, I don't know if you've seen any of the interviews or the couple of interviews, I should say, that Brendan Fraser's actually done since joining the cast of Doom Patrol, but he's flat out said that one of the biggest reasons why you don't see him in Hollywood anymore is because the Mummy franchise physically destroyed his body so much that he can't do what he used to anymore, which is sad, but I mean, he did a fantastic job for what it was.
But then you had, G.I. Joe was going to get its own universe for a while there. You had Rise of Cobra, then you had Retaliation, and that was supposed to be a 4 to 5 movie franchise that just kind of died off.
But we now have the Universal Monsters. No, sorry, Legendary. It is Legendary that does King Kong and Godzilla.
Right.
Yeah, the Legendary Monsters universe, which, I mean...
Yeah, the Universal Monsters was the one that was supposed to be the Mummy and all the classic horror.
I mean, depending on what you want to...
I would have loved to have seen that. I think that would have been pretty cool.
I mean, depending on what you want to believe about the current reviews on the newest Godzilla movie...
Haven't seen it. Yeah,
I
need to.
Like, every other review that I've seen just goes back and forth from the extremes. Like, it's so mixed, with some people saying, oh, it's a fans movie, others saying that, oh, no, certain critics get it, and then others just saying, I mean, it had its high points.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I love the 2014 one.
Yeah. It was good. It wasn't my favorite Godzilla. I mean, I am a classic Godzilla fan, so there is a certain bar in my mind that a good Godzilla movie has to hit to go from okay to, like, there.
Right, Matthew Broderick, right.
We don't talk about that movie, dude. We've had this conversation.
The movie was such trash.
Anyway, Marvel, though, yeah, like we said, we have done these reviews in the past, but seeing as how everything other than our Avengers review for Phase 1 was all audio, and kind of meh, if I'm being totally honest.
I mean, maybe from your end, I always bring it, but...
Meh. Yeah, we figured, hey, it's about time that we redo this properly. It's time for Howard the Duck to make a comeback, Franco. Yes.
We're doing this properly. We don't do anything properly.
As properly as we can, I mean...
Which is not at all. Got it. Okay. Moving on.
Yeah, so, yeah, so the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Back before we knew there was going to be a Marvel Cinematic Universe. So yeah, we have three main things that we're going to be talking about for each movie. We're going to be talking about how it was in the context of when it came out, how it is now in the context of the modern MCU, and where it stands today in the context of comic book movies overall. So, to begin with, the very first Marvel movie that was part of the official MCU, Iron Man.
Spider-Man. Oh, wait, never mind.
You wished that was, but...
I miss Toby so much. So much. I watched 2 the other night.
Yeah.
God, it holds up so well.
We're going to be talking about that in a different movie, so let's get back on track.
Well. You're right, sorry.
Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
John Favreau.
Yep. No, awesome. Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire. Oh, sorry.
Once again, different video.
Right. So yeah, no, so, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
No, let's have you start. I mean, you are the more of an expert on this one than I am.
So, summer of 2008. We're going to jump all the way back 11 years, kids. Back when flip phones were still a thing and you didn't have spoilers ruining everything left and right, and people could actually keep their damn mouths shut and not let... and not, I know, I miss it so much.
It's okay.
Oh, God, I miss it.
It's okay, Mike, it's okay.
We can't go back.
Sony has to die sometime.
Anyway. Got myself teary-eyed a little bit. No, so we go back to 2008. The original Iron Man was... We're just going to call it what it was. It was probably one of the biggest gambles that any movie studio or any entertainment studio has ever made.
And especially when that was the first movie that Marvel Studios put out.
Right.
Like, that made it an even larger gamble because their literal reputation was on stake.
Well, not only that, remember you had
financing.
You had Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
Which was, everybody forgets, it was a box office massive success.
Anna wants to know, how can you Google about end credits with a flip phone?
You can't. That's the point. None of us knew walking in what was coming.
Which was wonderful.
God, it was. But back to...
Today's when we didn't even know about the end credit idea.
But you get back to, so... I'm trying to remember. I think Spider-Man 3 was either 2006 or 2007. I think it was 2007. So you had...
Iron Man was 08.
Right. So you had Iron Man... Or you had Spider-Man 3. Mm-hmm. You had X-Men 3. Mm-hmm. Which... box office success, but the fan... Basically what I'm getting to is that the fans...
Ratner doesn't get X-Men.
Yeah, God, no, he doesn't. Like, there was kind of... now we say that there's a backlash against superhero movies and people complaining that they're coming out too much and everything like that. Like, around the time that Iron Man was hitting, it was real.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you had Batman Begins drop in 05, which I remember you and me saw it that night. And the funny thing about that movie, just the greatness of Christopher Nolan, was like, I don't remember there being a big build-up marketing-wise for that movie.
No.
Like, it was a Batman movie.
Yeah.
Like, it was the first one in, I think, close to a decade because of the god-awful Batman and Robin.
But it was a sleeper. Like, everybody just knew a new Batman came out.
Which is so weird. So weird to say about a Batman movie.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that caught everybody's attention was this was still back when Christopher Nolan was really only known to...
Memento and Insomnia. That was it.
No, he was really only known to, like, the indie crowd.
Right, yeah.
The true movie aficionados,
rather than Memento and Insomnia. That was it.
The big boys.
But
he was considered a risky director anyway, so nobody really wanted to promote his stuff.
And I think that's the thing that I always say was so important about the Spider-Man trilogy was if it hadn't succeeded, I don't think you'd have got Nolan to do his Batman trilogy. I don't think because to go off on a quick tangent, I think the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy showed that if you give the right director and the right writers to the right characters.
Yeah,
that they can make a great film regardless.
Which and who knew?
And if anything cemented it after that, it was the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, and it was Iron Man.
Yeah,
because you had a B-level character played by a guy that hadn't worked in like almost a decade
because of controversy. And
I mean, do we just want to say what it was?
I mean, I think at this point everybody knows. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. doesn't like to talk about it, but
literally nobody would cast him.
Yeah, because he had done so much to hurt his reputation through drugs and arrest after arrest, and just bad reputations on set, not being seen as a professional, and honestly, before actually. And then, I'm trying to remember if Chaplin was before or after Iron Man, because I know
it might have been around the same time.
Because I know that was like one of the movies that started to bring him back, but Chaplin. No, that was early. That was 92. So yeah, like Chaplin was the thing that gave him promise to his career. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, solidified it. I mean, there was stuff, and then he just destroyed it.
Right.
Yeah.
But then so you basically had a non-marketable star leading as your lead in a movie about a character that was, to the readers, was well known,
but to the general public
didn't have the name X-Men, didn't have the name Spider-Man, like wasn't the flashy name, I guess would be.
Yeah, there were really three big names in Marvel that the general public knew about. They knew Captain America because he was everywhere anyway.
Because they had just given him to Ed Brubaker, and they were letting Ed Brubaker run wild and kind of reboot the character.
The general public knew about the X-Men.
Right, and then Spider-Man.
And that there was no other Marvel character that really had a lot of appeal.
Right. And then the last piece of the puzzle, Jon Favreau directing.
Which, I mean,
Elf.
You want to talk about a risk. Nobody really knew that he was a good director.
Right.
They knew that he was a director.
Right.
And he did a good movie. But,
guy, up to that point, the guy was known for directing Swingers and writing Elf with... directing Elf and writing Swingers with Vince Vaughn.
Yeah. So...
And that was it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like they had a bunch of money behind this. They didn't... This was literally like Marvel's like, hey, we're going to make a movie studio. Here's our first movie. We're banking everything on it.
And so what you end up getting was a movie that actually felt like the character. You felt like Tony Stark from the comics was brought to the screen and the personality was all there. It was exactly what fans of the comics wanted from an Iron Man movie. Yep. And what the general public didn't realize they wanted out of a comic book movie.
Right.
In fact, Iron Man kind of finished solidifying the comic book genre in film, because before then, comic book movies had been either way too serious to be a comic book movie, or it had been super juvenile or kitschy, and just didn't have mass appeal.
Batman and Robin.
So,
ooh, excuse me. Sorry, I had. Yeah, sorry.
So when you had Spider-Man come out, that started to show that there could be a little bit of maturity involved in it. Spider-Man 2 showed that there could definitely be maturity in it. Spider-Man 3 took a bit of that back. And then Iron Man came back and said, no, you can make it mature. You can actually, from the very beginning of the movie, have an actual adult-themed superhero that appealed to kids.
Well, I think Batman Begins helped with that, too.
Yeah, Batman Begins...
And the first 2 X-Men.
Well, Batman Begins is the thing that said that superhero movies could be taken seriously.
Right.
Iron Man is the one that said that comic book movies...
That's true.
...could be considered adult fare.
Yeah.
Like, that was the difference. The Batman, the whole Dark Knight series was never meant as a comic book movie.
Right.
It was a superhero movie.
Right.
Comic book movies is where Iron Man came in, because it had the bright colors.
That's
it had
fair.
the over-the-top CGI that at the time didn't really look like it was over-the-top CGI. Now, but yeah, like it was a whole thing.
Yeah. Stop it. You stop that. You stop that right now.
Thank you, Anna.
Stop it.
That just made my day.
Just ruined mine.
But yeah, I mean, it was huge.
Yes,
like nobody realized it was what was happening.
Joss Whedon talks about, which we'll get to him later. Spoilers. Back before we knew spoilers. Joss Whedon talks about I remember him talking about it in an interview. He said the only time that I've ever interrupted somebody's dinner is he went up to Kevin Feige after the announcement of Downey Jr. being cast as Tony Stark. And he shook his hand and he said, hey, he's like, amazing choice. Like, I think you guys are going to do great things. And then he just kind of left it at that. And then later on, he tells the story that Feige called him when he was pitching. And he was like, hey, so, you want to...
Yeah.
And he kind of referenced it when they started having the talks of him coming in to direct Avengers.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah.
But, like, that's... To give you an idea, like, people that knew what was going on and people that knew that it was an amazing choice, but it was the risk of, is this going to be is it going to be the commercial success that Marvel Studios needed it to be?
Yeah. Like, that was...
Because they didn't have Disney money yet, people. They had Marvel money. Which Marvel money was good money.
If you were on the written format. On the movie side, just to be able to fund Iron Man, they were begging and scraping for financing.
Yep.
Like, there was nobody that wanted to throw their money behind this.
Like, this was, like, literally the term Hail Marys used. This was the Hail Mary for Marvel Studios, and it was the first movie.
Yeah.
They were basically like, nope, we're chucking it deep, and if it gets caught, it gets caught, and if it doesn't, we'll go from there, question mark?
Yeah, that was a thing
that
happened.
And then we also have to talk about the other thing that Iron Man 1 did. It set the groundwork for everything to come.
It introduced the idea of the end credit scene. Well...
Not only just that.
Okay, so
it introduced the idea
technically, Batman Begins introduced the end credit scene. In its what was it? Was it the original theatrical run, or was it the secondary when they had the final bit with the Joker card?
No, that wasn't an end credit. That was before the credits.
Was it?
Yeah.
I thought that was like a...
Yeah, because remember, we're sitting there like... And we all lost our damn minds.
Okay, yeah. But no, they introduced the idea of the end credit scene, which... Like, so nobody understood what that was or why it was going to be great.
But the only thing that... I remember the only thing that tipped it off to me was I was reading reviews for it, and the reviews were amazing, but then the reviews also said, don't leave the theater when the credits start, because there's something after the credits. But nobody was saying what it was, and they had already started laying the groundwork. They introduced S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mm-hmm.
They introduced the idea that maybe there's a lot more going on, and he's going to kind of be like the out front kind of...
Yep.
And like, because it ends with the famous him at the press conference saying, I am Iron Man.
Yeah.
Credits hit, and you're like, oh, hell, like where's this going to go from here?
Yeah.
And then...
Nick Fury.
And he's like, the Avengers Initiative, and we all lost our damn minds. We're like, wait, what? Like,
so there are going to be other movies that are connected to this, and they're really doing this. They're making movies that are interconnected,
and then everybody forgets Incredible Hulk was already coming out.
Yeah, like we knew that
Incredible
was
Hulk, I think, only came out a couple months later.
Yeah.
So everybody was like, "Wait, they're not really about to do this, are they?"
Yeah. So, and that's where this all. Not to get all Iron Man for this whole thing, but
because I'm going to talk a lot about the Captain America movie, so you might want to speed it up.
So no, it was a very important thing because the part about the end credit scene that mattered the most, that a lot of people now take for granted, and honestly a lot of studios take for granted now, is that when it was first introduced, the end credit scene was brought in as the idea that you could have a movie that was entirely dedicated to that character, to that story, and then you use this little, like, couple minute long at most scene during or after the credits that shows connection to the other movies that are coming up or have come, to allow for a genuine focus on what's important during the movie without dividing audience focus while the main feature is happening. But you still give that cinematic connection. Like, that was a massive, massive thing that most studios now see it as, oh, that's an extra attempt to show the connection. But really, we need to show the connection every time we can.
Right.
And the original idea of it was fantastic because it gave you something extra that the movie itself was never meant to include.
Right.
So it was a whole new thing.
It absolutely was It was a whole new world.
And then we had Hulk.
You didn't want to jump on that?
We aren't in the Disney phase yet, so.
Oh, damn it! Jumped the gun.
You're a phase early.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what we had.
So we get Iron Man.
Yes.
We get all of that, and then
we had Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton.
I still think it was the same year, if I remember right. I think they both came out in 2008.
Keep talking.
Holy hell! Now that I think about it, so that was, if that's right, we had Iron Man, we had The Dark Knight.
Yep, 2008.
What month?
That's good. IMDb doesn't want to show that too quickly. It just shows the year immediately. So yeah, we got them both in 2008.
Iron Man, The Dark Knight,
which was fantastic. But it was that was another movie that everybody thought was a bit of a risk, because the last time people tried to bring the Hulk to the big screen, Ang Lee and Eric Bana came in and they gave us what the Hulk would be if you dropped a hell of a lot of acid before opening the comics for the first time.
That's an understatement.
Like, that was Ang Lee's Hulk.
Right.
It was an interesting artistic attempt, but that was never the thing that the fans of the comics wanted.
No.
It honestly wasn't even the thing that the fans of, like, general blockbuster movies wanted, because even blockbuster movie fans didn't know what to think about it.
Right.
So
this one,
Edward Norton came in and gave a more serious tone, and you honestly came into it feeling like, oh, okay, so Iron Man was like comic, and now Hulk feels more Dark Knight. They're trying to bring a little bit more gritty realism-ish to Marvel.
It was him. Okay. It was him on the run. Which was a really good idea to give it that feel of a chase movie. He's always got to be one step ahead of everybody else.
Which, by the way, is different from a heist movie, which, once again,
Ant-Man.
Edward Norton's already done as well, but that was
Italian Job, that's right.
There you go.
Yeah. Good reference. I lost my train of thought. Where was I going?
I mean, there was a chase scene in that movie, but anyway.
Right. Yeah. The thing that was really interesting that I like, that a lot of people are still very on the fence about, though, is that it picked up where the Ang Lee Hulk left off. It didn't give you the origin story. It was, because he's
But it also discounted everything from the story of Ang Lee's Hulk.
Right.
It basically just said that you know the origin.
Right.
So we're going to pick up after that.
Right.
Technically, it could be connected, but we're not really going to say if it is.
In the opening credits, you see them doing the experiment. You see some stuff happening.
Yeah.
And then it picks up with him in South America.
Yeah.
Which is where the Ang Lee one ended. Was him hanging out in the jungle trying to be away from everybody.
Yeah, which was really fascinating.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody kind of thought that when this one came out, there was a really good chance that it was just going to be a complete reboot.
Right.
Like, they were going to completely forget about everything Ang Lee did. Right. And they sort of did, but not completely.
No, but that's where you pick up. He's been on the run for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like, he's still trying to find the cure for, I guess, gamma poisoning or whatever you want to call it.
Gamma radiation poisoning.
Yeah. But this entire time, he's still...
Hulkification.
I hate you. Oh, God, I hate you sometimes. But that he's still on the run, and that he's still trying to find this cure. And throughout the early phases of the movie, you see him in correspondence with people, like, I'm sending you blood samples, you need to run this, maybe try this, do all of this. All while he's just trying to keep his head under, basically, he's trying to stay under the radar. Meanwhile, like, everybody's looking for him.
Yeah, and...
Like, they have task force set up that, like, every time something pops up, they're sending people out to try to find him.
And I think if you're ever going to have a movie like this for the Hulk, honestly, Edward Norton makes for a good actor for that type of story. I know a lot of people felt like he was improperly cast, and I know that there's a big Ruffalo fan base now. Yeah. But honestly, at the time, I thought it was a fantastic casting, and I would have been okay with seeing him brought in for another Hulk iteration.
If he wasn't a psychopath.
Yeah. Very specific with what he wants creatively.
Psychopath, got it.
God,
and he did a movie with David Fincher. Holy hell, that set must have been impossible to be on.
So yeah, if you guys if you weren't aware, the reason why Ruffalo was brought in instead of Norton for the Avengers Hulk was because Marvel said that they split with Edward Norton over creative differences. The reality was he's not an easy man to work with behind the scenes, and every movie that he's done, especially in recent history, and by recent history I mean the last decade, has more or less said that if you don't do exactly what he wants, even if he's not technically the guy that's supposed to be in charge of the movie, he's going to make you do what he wants or make your life a living hell. And when he came in and did massive rewrites for The Incredible Hulk, which made some good and also interesting choices with some of the storyline, I think the ending of The Hulk is probably the best example of some of his interesting choices.
Where he ends up in a cabin in the...
No, not that ending, but like right before the big fight at the end with the
where he jumps out of the helicopter?
The introduction of the other, like, scientist, cringy, what's his name? That was supposed to be the villain for number 2.
Talking about the Abomination?
The scientist that was supposed to help him, but ended up screwing him over, sold him out to the military, and then got the gamma radiation poisoning.
He became the Abomination, yeah. Oh, no, not the Abomination. You're talking about, I know who you're talking about.
Yes.
Oh,
he was set up to be the villain for number 2.
Talk, damn it.
Anyway. Oh, you're killing me. So, yes, I realize I'm the one that's blanking on the guy's name, but that's not my fault. You're supposed to remember these things. So, yes. Anyway, yeah, so what we ended up having was an okay movie, honestly. A lot of people will bag on it now, but it was an okay movie.
No, when you go back and you rewatch it, I think it didn't get the love then I think that it does deserve, because it's a much better film than it gets remembered for.
Yeah, and I mean, especially when you consider that Thor was the thing that came after it. Honestly, I thought The Incredible Hulk was better than the original Thor, by a lot.
I disagree, and you're also wrong. Iron Man 2 came before Thor.
No. Okay, fine. The next hero in line. Whatever.
The next new hero?
Yes, the next new hero in line.
The leader! Son of a bitch! That's who it was.
What was his name before he was
Samuel Stearns.
There you go. So.
I didn't care about the characters. I couldn't remember the villain's name.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, no, that... Sorry. It was an interesting choice for how they brought that transformation around, but honestly, it could have been salvaged with the second movie.
Yeah, but
if
then
Universal
you get into the
hadn't become so pissy about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now moving on. The Incredible Hulk was better than people give it credit for, but at the time it was another feather in Marvel's cap to show that they could do a comic book movie in a more serious manner.
And then you have the post-credit scene in that one, with Robert Downey Jr. showing up,
which reinforced the fact that there is an interconnected universe coming up, and it wasn't a one-off concept.
Right.
So then we had Iron Man 2.
Right.
And that basically took everything that the original Iron Man...
Had Disney bought them at this point?
No, that was around the Avengers.
Okay.
So Iron Man 2 came in and gave a new update to the cinematic universe by saying, okay, you guys liked what we did with the other two movies. You liked the idea that this is interconnected. We're going to go ahead and throw you a bone. We're going to give you a couple new characters. We're going to give you a little bit more insight into this whole S.H.I.E.L.D. thing.
Right.
And best of all, we're going to give you more Sam Jackson because his Nick Fury, clearly, people like, so he must get more screen time.
That wasn't even the best edition. We all know what the best edition was.
Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow. Which, honestly, you can say what you will about fan service on that one. She really was one of the better additions to the team. Even though, at the time, everybody saw her introduction to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Black Widow as just massive fan service and casting that clearly was never going to have any substance.
And then she goes in there and kicks everybody's ass.
And not just that, but as the movies went on, she was one of the characters that had some of the most character development that nobody expected.
Thank Joss Whedon for that.
Yeah. So, it was a great casting choice.
Yep.
And honestly, I think if there was ever going to be somebody that could have played Black Widow, she really does fit the bill.
Well, and then this is where you start to notice that Marvel's, basically, every casting choice they make is... You can't question it.
Yeah. I mean, even say what you will about Gwyneth Paltrow and what you think of her as a person, she's
crazy.
Yeah. She actually did a great job as Pepper Potts.
Yeah, with what she was given. I mean, she wasn't the focus, let's be real.
No, but for what you needed out of Pepper Potts for the movies,
sure,
she did the role well.
I think the only complaint that I would say about the casting is that Terrence Howard wasn't really given a chance to do anything in the original Iron Man.
No, and honestly, it was a bit of a douche move the way they got rid of him. Like, I get that, pay negotiations can go south all the time, but
the guy did just have he was coming off of Hustle and Flow, which is why he was the highest paid cast member of the original one. And then they were like, well, we're going to cut your pay because you're not the star. And he was like, well, that's great, but that's not how that works.
Yeah, so... But honestly, I was... So it did take me most of Iron Man 2 to get used to Don Cheadle in the role.
Yeah.
Because I like Terrence Howard as an actor, but I think Don Cheadle did a great job as Rhodey.
Absolutely.
And honestly, they gave him so much more opportunities to do stuff with the role than Terrence Howard was in the first.
But with Iron Man 2, so you see the introduction of a lot of these new characters. You see them flesh out characters that we'd seen before. Like we get more interaction between Phil Coulson and Tony Stark.
Which another great character addition. My gosh, they're casting for Phil Coulson.
Like,
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Honestly, Kevin Feige, thank you for giving us Clark Gregg as Phil Coulson. That was awesome.
So like it's to the point now where they're knocking every casting choice out of the park 3 movies in.
Yeah.
And yeah, Iron Man 2,
it wasn't the best, but
it kind of suffered from sequelitis, let's be real. They threw a lot in there. Now, a lot of people don't really like the whole Tony Stark becoming a drunk and being a piece of crap.
Even though that is literally pulled from the comics.
But it humanized him. So much so in a way that we really hadn't seen a lot of that in comic book movies before.
I fully acknowledge that a lot of the fans of that storyline from the comics, their biggest complaint about the way it was handled was that it felt rushed.
Yeah.
And then in the comics, they had more time to build up and feel the pain from the character.
Yeah.
I say, if they were going to take that aspect of the character and build that up over even the first 2 phases of Marvel movies, that was actually going to be the least interesting character trauma that they could have given him compared to what they actually ended up giving him. And I'm okay that they brought it in. I'm okay that they went through it quickly because there was better character development for him down the line.
Right. So, but...
And then we had Thor.
Yes. I really like the first Thor.
It had high points.
I really like the first Thor.
In my mind, it was the weakest of Phase 1.
See, I completely disagree. I would put it over Iron Man 2. I would put it over Incredible Hulk.
Really?
Yes. I loved the first Thor. The Victorian feel, the kind of capes and sorcery, like the fact that Kenneth Branagh directed it.
Yeah.
The fact that I didn't really know too much about the character going in. I knew of Thor. I knew that he got his power from the hammer.
That's fair.
I knew that you had to be deemed worthy to wield the hammer.
That's fair.
I didn't really know too much about Jane Foster or anything like that. I really liked the callbacks to the comics. Because originally when Thor was banished to Earth, he wasn't banished as Thor. He was placed in the body of a doctor. And her ex-boyfriend was the name of the character from the original comics.
Okay.
So, like, the small stuff like that. We got our introduction of the first, I would argue, fantastic villain.
Oh, Loki?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really liked Ironmonger.
But at the same time, Loki had more... He had more... I can't even say development. He just had more character.
Right.
Like, honestly, he had more personality, and he... Even when he wasn't given much for scene, Tom Hiddleston was able to take what he had and just run with it.
But even then, it was also a different tone.
Yeah. Yeah, it was more...
It was, Ironmonger was, I'm going to smash everything with brute strength. Abomination was, I'm going to smash everything with brute strength. Whiplash was, I'm going to smash everything with brute strength. Oh, and then I'm going to also outsmart Justin Hammer, but I'm still going to just throw brute strength at you. Loki was cunning and deceptive and was manipulative.
Yeah. It gave that idea that
he was the snake in the grass.
Yeah.
He was such a damn good snake.
It gave their villains the opportunity to expand.
Yes.
Which was nice because, yeah, Marvel movies traditionally do have a bit of a villain problem.
Right.
But I think Loki isn't given enough credit for the groundwork he put in for the more complex villains we ended up getting over time.
But yeah, and you had a little bit more universe building in this one. You got Hawkeye introduced.
Yeah.
We got to see S.H.I.E.L.D. go down and basically kind of figure out what was going on down in New Mexico with Thor and everything like that.
And we got to see S.H.I.E.L.D. a bit more in action.
Right, and then we got to see the entire... And that's really where they started branching out and we're going off-world.
Yeah.
We got to see Asgard.
And we got to see Thor's depiction of what the extended galaxy looked like.
Right. And the introduction
of multiple universes, sort of.
That's where they really started planting the seeds.
Yeah.
Because he's sitting there and he's like, oh, you call it science, we call it magic. It's really the same thing, and this is how it works.
No, you call it magic. We
call it science. That's right. Sorry, I flipped those.
But yeah,
he's like, but where I come from, really, it's all one and the same thing. And here are the 7 realms, and blah blah blah. And you're like, oh, like they're really laying the groundwork for. They may actually go off into the realms and do future stuff over there.
Yeah, and the fact that they brought in the ice giants for the first Thor, and they got to show an alien race which, by the way, was the first alien race we'd seen in Marvel at that point.
Right.
I mean, if you don't technically want to count the Asgardians as an alien race,
interdimensional.
Sure. It was interesting.
It was a different take. It was a lot more universe expanding than we had seen before, but it wasn't an overload.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And speaking to your point of kind of telling the story that they want to tell, that one very much told its own story.
And didn't,
like, so much so that it was literally like, oh yeah, we're building this universe over here. Yeah, no, we're going to go over here and like talk about the 7 realms, and we're going to talk about other stuff that's going on.
And they didn't give a damn what the other movies have been setting up, which I will say, good for them.
Yep.
Honestly,
that was the post-credit for Iron Man 2, right? Was Thor's hammer landing in New Mexico?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, is the call about it?
Well, no, you actually see the hammer.
Yeah, you saw the hammer, but you didn't see it crash land. You saw.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
You saw the hammer and the call about it. And
Yeah. Because at that point they had been using every help me.
Every post-credit scene to set up the next movie.
Thank you.
While also showing connection.
Right, showing connection, but also introducing future characters as well.
Yeah. But yeah, so from there, and just really, really quickly, because I don't think they get enough credit for it, everybody that was cast as Thor's, I'm going to call them exactly what they were, Thor's band of merry men and women.
Lady Sif and the Warriors 3?
Oh, they were fantastic, and honestly, with Marvel coming out and doing their own shows on the Disney Plus streaming service, if they don't come back and do a prequel series just for Lady Sif and the Warriors 3, I'm going to be terribly disappointed. Like, I don't want Thor in it. I do not want Thor in there. I do not want a Thor cameo. I don't want a Loki cameo.
How can he if he's flying off Guardians of the Galaxy? Oh, spoilers.
I want just a show with them.
Right.
Those 4, nobody else. Pick whichever casting variation you want. For those of you that actually paid attention during the different movies, you'll know what I mean.
Or would it be better?
Would
it be better to have Loki and Thor involved as the younger versions of themselves and kind of growing into the characters that we got introduced in the first Thor?
Honestly, I think they've gotten way too much attention.
When they go fight the Frost Giants, you can tell that they've all been together for a while and they've all been fighting together for a while.
They've gotten way too much attention. I think that if they're going to do it, it needs to be like a mini-series that ends with the introduction of Sif and the Warriors 3 to Thor. Because at this point, I don't know if Chris Hemsworth is really worth bringing into one of the shows, because he's already so oversaturated with the movies.
You can never get too much Chris Hemsworth.
But second, the shows are the one place where Marvel has the opportunity to really expand into the side stories.
You're not wrong.
Without the need for one of the main characters, one of the main Avengers. Yeah. And to throw him in to a story about those 4, I think would be disservice to those 4. Because everybody would be paying attention to Chris Hemsworth rather than what should be the purpose of the show, which is those 4 characters.
That's true.
And it would give Jamie Alexander, who really has not been given enough opportunity to shine through Marvel, but has in actually her own TV show right now, which I will look up right now.
Yeah, it's the one on NBC. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be pretty good.
She has shown that she can act and she can do a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Marvel just hasn't given her the opportunity, but they should, because it would be fantastic. I mean, call it fan service if you want, but I want it. So next,
Captain America! Nah! What you looking up?
her show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we get Thor, and then...
Blind spot.
Yeah, that's what it is. So after Thor, we've been building. We're building to something, Now we're going to jump way the hell back in time. And we're going to go...
And by way the hell, he means half a century.
Yep. We go all the way back to where it all started, with the First Avenger. And now, at this point, the casting news has already come out, and the news has already come out that we're getting the Avengers, and Whedon's directing it, and we're getting all of that laid down. And the one worry I remember people having was that a lot of fans of the character were worried that Captain America wasn't going to get his proper movie, was that it was just going to kind of be a stepping stone into the
That's
Avengers.
the worry you remember? I remember one even bigger.
Oh, I do too.
Chris Evans.
Yep.
The man who was responsible for not one, but two terrible, and yeah, I will say terrible, renditions of the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four.
He wasn't bad. The movies weren't good.
And he was attached. He wasn't responsible, but he was attached.
Yeah.
And then even before that, it was not another teen movie, and that whipped cream bikini. And banana, do we want to say tail?
Just all of the memes.
Banana split?
All of the memes and all of the GIFs with the America's Ass reference back to that movie. My favorite one is where he walks up to the mirror. And he's looking in the mirror and it's Cap's ass and he just walks up.
And that's the thing. That's what those are the two things that everybody remembered about Chris Evans when he was being cast. Everybody remembered that.
Not when he was being cast, because remember, there was, I think at one point it was Jude Law was going to play Captain America. You don't remember that?
Crap, I think that was the thing.
Yeah, like Jude Law was the top runner at one point. Like there was a John Krasinski at one point was going to be Captain America.
Yeah.
There was a name of people, or there was a list of names of people. And then it gets down to, I think it got down to Evans and I think I think the last two were Evans and Krasinski. And people don't know it, but like he turned the role down like twice.
Yeah, because he flat out has said in interviews that he didn't really want a role that looked like it was clearly going to be sticking around for years, and there was going to be a massive responsibility to the character to do it for that long.
Right.
He wasn't sure if he wanted that responsibility to any character, let alone a comic book character like Captain America.
But like he was literally given the role, turned it down. Then they did another round of
casting.
They did another round of casting and another round of auditions.
Came back to him again.
Came back to him again, had him come in and actually get fitted for the suit, and he still turned it down.
Yeah.
And then Downey Jr. had to call him and tell him to do it.
Yeah.
Or he didn't tell him, he basically said, he's like, you and I both know you're the only person that can do this, please. Like, he basically begged him to do it.
And also told him that, yes, there is a responsibility that you have to the characters, and to the, or to the character and to the fans, but get over yourself.
Yeah.
It's going to be worth it, and you will be glad you said yes.
And he did.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he said yes.
And honestly, I think he is probably more glad than almost anybody other than Robert Downey Jr. that he said yes to the role, because not only did it actually take him and put him in the category of serious actor, which is funny to be able to say considering a comic book movie, but it also was the role that gave him the clout to start his directorial debut and that whole side of his career, because of the things that he learned and the opportunities he was given through Marvel.
Yep.
And that would probably have never happened, or if it did happen without Marvel, it would have been at least another decade or two before it would have happened.
And I still think to this day that was the best casting choice that Marvel's ever made.
Yeah. Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr.
No, I think he was a better casting choice.
Really?
I think this character, like so many people are like have the stigma that Captain America is this boring, very dry character.
Oh,
which like the character can be very dry, and there were instances where Evans played him very dry, but there are also instances where like he's going to give you this kind of rah, fire you up speech. And, like, it's in the Avengers, when he's sitting there calling out Stark in front of everybody, you're like, oh, shit. Like, he's putting him on blast in front of it. And, like, you actually feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it matters more and it means something more that it's coming from this one specific person. And, like, Evans brought it.
Yeah.
Like, so much so that, like, I can't... Like, Krasinski's really good. He's done really good. Or he's done really well, I should say, in a lot of the more heavy action stuff that he's done. Like, he was fantastic in Jack Ryan.
Oh, I loved him in that.
Quiet Place, he was fantastic. 13 Hours, he was great. Like, he's grown into a more serious actor. But, like, I can't see anybody else doing this character.
No, and even then, with Krasinski, with the direction he has grown, I don't know if seeing what his acting style has turned into, if he could have done Captain America.
Because there are still scenes...
Because it's not his... that's just not his style.
Yeah.
Like, what we needed from the character is not what John Krasinski has become as an actor. And I don't know if he was ever even capable of it.
And there are still scenes... And there are still scenes in all
Which
throughout...
is not a slam to John Krasinski. No. He's fantastic. But... not for this.
And there are moments and scenes throughout his entire run where, like, he still plays it very dry and he still plays it very straightforward, but not so much so in a toned down way, more so like he's the glue for the scene, and he's letting everybody else do their thing, and he's kind of the compass of, and he's kind of the centralized point of, I'm going to stand here and be the foundation while I let everybody else kind of run and do their thing.
So, yeah, and obviously we got the introduction of Sebastian Stan as Bucky, which was a great casting choice, honestly.
Spoilers, we'll see him later.
But, even...
Haley Atwell
was fantastic as Peggy Carter.
Tommy Lee Jones was great in it.
And,
Neil McDonough as Dum Dum Dugan was fantastic.
But, Red Skull.
Hugo Weaving.
A man who does not know how to play a villain poorly.
No, God.
And even on some of his more ridiculous villainous roles, he still makes them believable. And honestly, for a guy who is literally just a character that is an evil Nazi with delusions of power and whose head is a red skull, that doesn't give you a lot of confidence that the character can be good, but oh my gosh, he did it.
Yep, he absolutely did it. And the thing that made the movie so great was that it was a total period piece.
Yeah. And that was the other big thing about Captain America the First Avenger, was that it was the movie in the MCU that started the idea, and even the movie within comic book movies as a whole, that started the idea that a comic book movie was not necessarily a genre as much as it was a theme. But you could actually place comic book movies within different genres, or even subgenres, and make them work. And by making this a historical action flick, it proved that not only was it possible, but it could be done well, and people would love it.
And then they did the exact same thing with Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And even more so, we're like, well, we'll talk about that one
later.
But and then another Joe Johnston to direct it. You're doing a period piece, get the guy that's known for period pieces.
Yeah.
The fact that literally the first 2 or 3 minutes and the last 5 minutes of the movie all take place in the modern world, and everything else is set back in 1940. I think it starts in 43 or 44.
It feels different between the scenes.
It doesn't
aesthetically.
It feels totally different. And there are cheesy moments and there are corny, but it plays back to,
that's the character.
Not only is that the character, but that's the time period that it's set in.
Sure.
Like the traveling chorus piece that he goes with, and everything like that. Like, that's crap that they did back then to sell bail bonds.
Which even then, I have seen, there's actually an analysis by, I want to say it was the YouTube channel Just Right. I'll look it up here in just a second.
Yeah.
But that actually explained that without any of us realizing, that whole section of the movie was actually one of the most accurate depictions of government military propaganda while actually turning that whole section of the movie into government military propaganda without it being a parody of itself.
The character...
And doing it in a true-to-form method that it made it so much deeper in context. And it was...
The character itself was
great.
The character itself was literally made for war propaganda. It was made by two Jewish writers It was made by two Jewish writers. He was blonde-haired and blue-eyed, which is exactly what Adolf Hitler said was the perfect race. But he stood against everything that the Nazis stood against. He stood for everything that the United States stands for. Oh, and by the way, the cover of the first book is him knocking Hitler out. Like, the character literally was made as war propaganda and then became like a cultural icon.
Just Right. Yeah, it was. Just Right's contribution to the ongoing miniseries that he and several other channels are doing called One Marvelous Scene. If you guys really want to see some interesting analysis of that part of Captain America, go check it out. It's 15 minutes. It is surprisingly insightful about a movie that I already thought I knew everything there was to know about, and there was still a deeper level to go for even more of it. And talking about deeper level, just the true writing style of showing how heroic he was as a person, and the ways that they did it, even before he was full superhero. Like, that was some of the best writing. Yeah, you could say it's a bit cheesy, but it was some of the best writing of just true character.
It was so great because, like, that's how people lived their lives back then. That's how people... They're called the Greatest Generation because they wanted to do what was right. And here you literally have a character that's like, I don't have a right to not go and fight and possibly give my life when literally other men are doing it as well.
Yeah. I mean, his reaction to seeing the military ads before he tried to enlist, his multiple conversations with Stanley Tucci's character, and even the really cheesy grenade scene during boot camp.
So great.
Like, all of it, yeah, it seems cheesy, but it was probably some of the purest...
It absolutely was.
...bits of his own character development that we ever got in the franchise, and it started him off. If that's where you're starting, you can see how the rest of his story just added on from there.
Yeah. I mean, and it was literally just, it was such a simple story, too. It was a story of a guy that just wanted to do the right thing, and, like, he did.
Now,
and then he goes into the ice and the movie ends.
And then we get everything transitioned to the Avengers.
Well, not only that,
we need to really get to because we are running overtime.
I don't care. They can wait. I still think that might be
one of my... They can wait. My wife will literally come up here and kill you for making it go long. Not me, you. So let's
Okay, but just real quick, the last 5 minutes of that movie, I think, are my favorite 5 minutes of any Phase 1, where he wakes up in the room and, like, because you didn't know what they were going to do.
Yeah.
You didn't know if they were going to save that for Avengers. You didn't know. And then he wakes up and you hear the radio playing and, like, and it's so funny because David, who's been on the show with us, his brother came with us, my dad, it's all four of us sitting there, and my dad's over here and we're just like, they're going to do it, and they're over here like, what's going on? And, like, and you can kind of tell people, and like, she comes in the 1940s era, and he looks at the radio and he was like, that game's from 1944 because I was there. And you're like, oh God, they're doing it. And then he runs out into the modern world and it's all the modern cars. And he runs into the middle of Times Square and you're just like, it's literally like it's the man out of time. Like, he goes into the ice and then he comes out 70 years later. And then you're like, we're going to get to see this play out throughout the future movies.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a really, like, I would have been disappointed if they didn't end the first movie that way.
Sure.
But, sorry, anyway, I just wanted to get to that point. Go ahead.
And I just noticed over there that apparently our background music cut out a little while ago.
Sweet, so they just are hearing our obnoxious voices.
Us, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Well, sorry for that. That just one of the two minor technical difficulties we've had on this live stream. But hey, it's live, so woohoo!
Blame Brad.
Actually, that one is fair.
Yeah.
I should have checked that one. Anyway, now, to get to the last bit and try to get through this without going too far in, the Avengers. This was the first Marvel movie that not only brought all the characters together, but proved that you could actually do a big comic book event in the movies with at least some variation on what the comic book event was to make it suitable for the movies.
And not only that, it was done the right way. We had all of the characters introduced in movies before it. We got their stories. We got them fleshed out as characters.
Yeah.
We got what their baseline movie... Because going into the Avengers, we wanted to know who they were. We wanted to know what they stood for and everything like that. And we knew that coming out of the Avengers, the events of the movie would change who they were and kind of move them going forward.
Yeah.
But we had all of the... Literally, this was 2008 to 2012, so this was four years of a build-up to one event. And it was... They had the perfect... Again, casting and directing choices. Like, oh, Joss Whedon's going to get to write and direct Avengers. He hadn't done a movie. His only major film was Serenity. So this was literally his second film.
Wow, and we just had a bit of a loss of stream, apparently. So if you were still around or coming back on, we apologize for that.
Yeah.
I have no idea what just happened.
That's good.
Apparently YouTube is still having some issues trying to catch up.
That's YouTube. What do you expect?
Facebook did too just now. We literally froze for like a solid 2 seconds.
Weird.
Yeah. Anyway, to really wrap it up before more things fall apart on us.
Yeah.
The Avengers. It was big. Joss Whedon came in and showed the way that the big event movie was supposed to happen.
And I know, and so many of my friends still complain that they spent too much time on the helicarrier, but I would rather have that time to see the characters interact with each other and develop and grow together, than literally just kind of randomly throw them into battle after battle after battle.
Yeah, which I'm okay with, honestly. I think we needed that time on the helicarrier, getting their finding out what their combined dynamics were, so that everything that happened in the second half of the film actually had meaning to us.
Right.
Because without all that build up for them as a team, it wouldn't.
Well, and that's just it. Like, you had them butting heads with each other. You had them arguing with each other. You had them, well, no, we need to do it this way. No, we need to do it this way. There's the scene where Stark's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go ahead and hack all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s files. Like, we should know what they're actually doing here in about a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And then right as he's about to get the information, Cap walks in and throws the gun down on the table, and he's like, well, they're going to use the Tesseract as a weapon. Sorry, the computers were taking too long. Like, they both got the same idea. We're just going to go about it very different ways to figure out what's going on. Yeah,
and honestly, that was a big thing. Like, knowing what, and I know I keep saying that, but Phase 1 had so many big elements to it that were important for the future of everything, honestly. You had a massive thing that came up with this where you understood what the characters were like before. You needed to see how they were together. And the fact that it took them a while, like you said, to find that happy place where they worked together, and they needed that tension to start. It made their team up feel more believable rather than what DC has tried to do, where you come in and, oh, cool, superheroes exist all in the same universe. They meet for the first time, and of course they're going to work together because they're superheroes. That's what they do, right?
And they did such a fantastic job of laying everybody's motives out before it.
Yeah.
Like, that, all that time on the helicarrier was kind of building up to why all of them is going into this fight that's about to come up. Like, you had Thor because he's about to fight his brother. You had, you know, Steve Rogers was there to be the glue for everybody, and he wanted to make sure that the Tesseract didn't fall back into the wrong hands because that's what he sacrificed his life essentially for.
Yeah.
You had Downey Jr. that had to prove that he wasn't just in it for himself.
Yep.
You had Hawkeye. Hawkeye's the only...
He's the only one that could have been a bit of a gimme, whether or not he was there, except for what we end up getting from him in later movies. But for that movie in particular,
and Whedon,
he was...
And Whedon talks about it.
I hate to call him this, but he was a bit of a straw man for the sake of that movie.
Well, and Whedon and Renner both talk about the fact that when Whedon gave him the script, Renner was like, this isn't really who I wanted. And he's like, hey, I understand. He was like, here's the big picture that I have going forward. This is just a stepping stone. And then you saw it in Age of Ultron, where, like, Clint is literally the main focus of that movie, essentially. Like, there's a huge dynamic shift, and Clint really steps out and becomes like an all-star.
Yeah. But yeah, so overall, I would say that Marvel Phase 1, at the time that each movie came out, one movie after another was just a massive series of risks that paid off for what was a very young and underfunded studio.
Right. They wouldn't have to worry about being underfunded much longer.
Which, yeah, I think it was either going into the First Avengers or it was right after it was released.
I think it was after.
That's when Disney bought Marvel,
and
it became a very different kind of thing.
But I think you also saw with Phase 1, they showed that they could develop the character. Like these are popcorn movies, but they weren't just dumb, thoughtless, emotionless. Like there's actual feeling put into the. Like they
gave us hints that there was more that you could do with these type of movies than anybody had thought was possible before. They gave us the idea that you could expand your definition of what was a comic book movie, not just a superhero movie, but an actual comic book movie. You could expand that definition out because even though they didn't, other than Captain America, they didn't really go full out and show that you could.
Right.
But they gave enough hints that everybody was starting to pick up the pieces and go, wait, well, if you could do this, and you could do this, and they could do this, does that mean this is possible? And then this? And, well, what about this? And it made everybody start asking the right questions. The questions that ended up defining the genre.
Well, I think also what you saw too was that if you give these characters that mean something to these people, then they're going to do what's right by the fans.
Yeah.
Because they're like the people that are. Kevin Feige's a fan.
Yeah.
Joe Johnston, Jon Favreau, the Russo brothers had to petition to get Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And then they were given Civil War, and then they were given Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
But like they literally fought tooth and nail because the character meant so much to them that they wanted to see it done in a way that would have brought the character to life in the right way.
Yeah.
Like that's what you have with all of these films is you have people that like there's so much love for the characters behind the scenes that it shows on the screen.
Yeah. In the context of the modern MCU, yes, each of these movies don't necessarily hold up as the perfect movie compared to some of the recent additions.
No.
But you know, and you can't even say that their special effects really hold up per se compared to modern versions of their special effects. But you can never look at these movies and say that they feel like they are the bottom of the barrel that Marvel had to offer.
Right.
They still feel relevant. They still feel like they are movies that you could enjoy, even knowing and seeing what the modern Marvel movies are. You can still go back and enjoy them today, which is not the same thing that you can say for other movie franchises. Mm-hmm. And then in the context of the comic book genre, I mean, I think you kind of said it best. They set up so many things that other movies needed and relied on because Marvel did it first.
Like, it's, you and I always talk about Warner Brothers and the DCEU and trying to catch Marvel, and then you had the Universal Monsters, and then you have what was supposed to be the Hasbro, and then you have the Legendary.
And as we were actually corrected on YouTube earlier that I missed,
that is the brain, son of a bitch.
The Dark Universe.
Yeah.
Not just the Universal Monsters, it's the Dark Universe.
Which I still have hope for. It's probably not going to happen. But like this is literally the blueprint for how you make a cinematic universe.
Yeah. And
like I know
anybody that tries to say, "Oh, we can do it better or differently,"
no,
you're missing the point.
You are missing. Literally, they laid it out there for you. This is how you do it, guys. Just literally introduce them one at a time. Give your time. Give your characters time. Like give them their own movies to get fleshed out. Then you put them in together.
Yeah, you need time
yes.
to develop the characters, and Marvel proved that because anytime they've tried to introduce characters in a rushed fashion,
right.
you felt it.
Right.
But the second those characters were then given additional development later, that you could feel what that character was supposed to be,
Yep.
you understood more, you connected, and it mattered.
Right.
So yeah,
it absolutely did.
Yeah, so that is pretty much Marvel Phase 1. We will be coming back later this summer to address Marvel Phase 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
And don't know about if we'll be able to get to Marvel Phase 3 this summer or not, but we will definitely try. And yeah, I'd say that's a pretty big one. But yeah,
just a skosh.
So anyway, for those of you that are still sticking around until the very end, thank you for doing that. That is awesome of you.
I know we're pretty insufferable sometimes, I know.
And we kind of went longer than we intended, by about 16 minutes. But anyway, so just really, really quickly, if you want to be able to see more of what we do here on this channel, if you're watching us on YouTube, go check us out on Facebook, Instagram, sort of Twitter.
Sort of Twitter.
I'm working on it. Or if you like us on YouTube, but you don't always have time for our videos, we actually have the audio version of all of our videos available in podcast form on iHeartRadio. We finally got approved. Spotify, Google Play Store, iTunes, and
holy crap, we're on all of those? Wait,
Stitcher,
for real?
apparently. Which, for those of you who don't know what Stitcher is, it's a podcast-specific platform.
I'm going to straight up start telling people. Now that I know that, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. We're on iTunes, we're on Google, we're on Spotify and iHeart and all of it. So yeah, you have no excuse not to check out our stuff. And of course, Facebook is another great place to be able to continue to get our content. And for those of you that are watching us on Facebook, you can find us on all those other places. But please, also, if you do subscribe to people on YouTube, we would love it if you would also subscribe to us over on YouTube, because we need to build up our audience there even more. So that would be fantastic of you.
We're trying to get famous. You guys need to help us.
And for those of you who are watching, but you're not currently following or subscribed to us on either Facebook or YouTube, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, I guess until next time, this is Brad and Mike from Geek saying, see ya. And
I'm just gonna keep waving until you